What if your direction in life took you to the doors of the United States Marines Recruitment Office because you were searching for something more than what society could offer you? What if you pushed the limits in everything you did and excelled in that job? What if upon leaving military service, you found yourself giving it your all as an undercover police officer, while everything you had built in life up to this point started to crumble around you? What if through this process you found a new purpose in life by helping others, by sharing how you navigated your own struggles on life's path and your creation of a formula for success? Join me as I talk with Juan Perez, the veterans coach, as we talk about his journey to service, what life held for him after, and what he is doing today to help coach others to their own success through the VetRise Academy. This is Veteran Success Story. Welcome to another episode of Veteran Success Story. In today's episode, I had the opportunity to sit down with Juan Perez, who is the founder and host and head coach over at the VetRise Academy, who also runs the VetRise podcast. A phenomenal conversation, and I'm going to put down in the description links on where to find everything that Juan puts out, because he's all over social media. His podcast is phenomenal. Honestly, that's I think social is where I first found him, but then moved to his podcast content, and it's good stuff. The guy holds this standard out there of success in the veteran world like nothing else I've ever seen. So I'm excited to see where this one's going with him, but I know you guys are going to love the episode. Do me a favor, in order for me to keep these episodes going, like, follow, and subscribe, either across the board or, wherever you listen to podcasts, as well as like one or two of the social channels. It helps me out a ton. It helps me out in the way of to where when I have a certain amount, I monetize off that and I can keep the show free, because that's something that I want to do. I want to keep putting this content out for free by being that voice that can amplify the guests that come onto the show in order to bring you guys either content that's going to help you out in your daily lives or show you where you can find more information on how to be better, how to do better, and live, a better life as a veteran out there. Or if you're someone who's not a veteran but just likes listening to veteran shows, that's fine too. If you glean from this content in this podcast, that's great, because that's the only reason we're here, is to help other people out in finding their own path. So like, follow, subscribe, and without getting any further into that, look in the description links for everything that Juan has going on, but let's get into it. All right, welcome to another Veteran Success Story. Today, I'm joined with Juan Perez, the veterans coach, also the host of VetRise, the VetRise podcast. And, man, you just have a myriad of other things going on, but I know our first, interaction, if you will, would be the stuff that you were posting on social. And I was just like, this is resonating so hard with me right now. I got to have this guy on the podcast. I got to talk to him here. So here we are. But it's good to have you on the show, man.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be here. I'm going to put it out there, but we were talking before and we're like, we should probably be recording this because we were having some pretty good conversation. So I feel like I just met up with a long lost buddy, honestly. So I'm happy I'm here. Thank you for having me.
I actually got yelled at for, there was Denny Caballero. He's another guy that runs a podcast, Security Hall podcast. And he actually yelled at me because he does a bunch of other producing for a few others out there. And he's like, you need to have it set up to record as soon as they get on. And I'm just like, yeah, but then there's sometimes there's that awkward stuff on there. They're on the camera on record immediately. And I'm like, I don't want to do that, but I get it, because it's happened more than once.
I like the way you did it, just because now we're flowing. But yeah, when you hopped on, I saw your camera set up. I'm like, holy crap. Freaking this guy looks like he's a pro. Let me get my lights right. So I had to move some stuff around.
It's all phase, man.
But then I had a chance to share the podcast setup that we're doing, because we just spent a lot of time kind of updating our podcast studio. But yeah, no, love it. I'm happy to be here. ready to dive into whatever you want to talk about. I'm here for it.
Well, see, this gives us the opportunity in the future to do JP Veteran Coach, 2.0 in the new studio,
Here
down the
for it.
road. So
Yeah.
it's how it all works. Right now we've got what do you got? The box in the background for box jumps. You got
Yeah,
yeah, no, it's
sideways.
perfect, man. It's perfect. I
Yeah, I
love it.
got the belief sign. Have you seen the Ted Lasso show on Apple TV?
I have.
Yeah. So
That's not
that's
the
from there.
believe sign though, is it?
No, 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 no. Of course not. That'd be wild.
That would be wild.
But I probably would pay for that. Yeah, yeah,
Hey, it's weird sometimes how that stuff circles around. I'm trying to think of just because I know, like, I've just come across some stuff before. People are telling stories and whatnot, or like in the Planet Hollywoods where they have the, hey, these are the props from here, or I have there's one of my old command sergeant majors ended up in the film industry doing
hmm
the job as an armorer for the set.
hmm
And I think the other day he posted something up with The Walking Dead, one of the pistols from the show, and I think he was like,
yeah.
Rick's pistol. And I was
No
like,
way.
that is the
That's
Rick's
dope.
pistol? Like, you got to be kidding me.
I mean, it's got to go somewhere, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I
and you always
mean,
hear
I don't
things
know.
with the stars taking home. What is it?
Yeah.
The Deadpool costume.
Yeah. I saw
So
that. Yeah,
right.
I was in this place the other day having dinner, and they had a display, and it was not the Monopoly board, the Jumanji board from Jumanji, and I'm like, there's no
Yes.
freaking way. I'm like,
Yes.
there's no way. In this place in Oak Brook, right here in Illinois, like, there's no way this is the actual Jumanji board. I don't know. I didn't ask, but maybe.
Why
Yeah.
not? I mean,
Why
who
not?
knows? Who knows? We got the pieces of flair, right?
hmm
No, I love the believe sign, man. That is, I mean, that is the epitome, I guess, of what drives a lot of this and what drives a lot of these projects too, man. Because
Yeah.
matter of fact, like, how did that go? Like, you know what? Never mind. I can't go there first. We can't go there straight off the bat, right? I mean,
Why not?
well, yeah.
I mean,
I
why
mean, you
not?
left the Marines, you went and did stuff as a cop, police officer. And I've listened to some of that end, but it's more your journey that I'm interested in putting, like, what made you decide and how was that journey to, like, hey, I'm gonna put myself out there. I'm gonna get uncomfortable with
Yeah.
everything, but you're retooling yourself, but you're finding it along the way and you're sharing that journey
Yeah.
with everybody else. I mean, I think it's incredible.
I'll put it to you this way. Well, I think that when you finally accept that you are the main character of your life and that you can feel courageous and brave and different and tell yourself that there's nobody built like me, you really take away all the limitations of what you think you can't do, right? Like, who am I to leave my career of 10 years and start a business and be able to coach veterans and change lives? Like, who the fuck am I? And I think that when you, like, accept that you are the main character of your life, like, you have to be your hero. You have to, like, walk around as if there's a documentary film, like, just documenting your entire life. You just take away all the limitations because you really feel like you can do anything.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I did. So, like, I was the opposite for a long time. I thought, I can't do anything. I better find something to do. And I was in the Marine Corps. I was a scout sniper. I was a team leader. I was a chief scout of my platoon before I left the Marine Corps. And then I went to work for, like, a private security firm. That didn't work out. And then I went to become a cop, and I gave it everything. Like, I mean, like, I would just show up early, leave late. I wanted to do all the search warrants. I wanted to put on the mailman costume and check the mailbox to make sure it was the right house before we hit the house. And I sacrificed everything. My first marriage, I never did the healing, and I felt like I had to be really good at what I did at my job to be of any value in life. And I think now I'm at a place where, like, it's the complete fucking opposite. Like, because I love who I am so much, I'm good at what I do. And it's not the other way around.
That's chills right there, man, because like there's so many of us that do, like, we put the mission first instead of ourselves, and we will go
Yeah.
through hell to complete the mission. That's been ingrained in us the whole way. And I don't know if I don't know your background completely. Like, I mean, bits and snippets and stuff while researching
Yeah,
you
it's
and
okay.
everything, but I do know that a lot of military, a lot of the background, a lot of us are holding trauma from our past. And then it's still there when we leave the military. So the military gives us that structure. and everything. And I know you've said it multiple times. Matter of fact, I think this is one clip that just keeps coming up for me. Is it's like, and I got to get this right here because it's, veterans never belonged
Yeah.
in society. We were searching for something else. And when you said that, I'm like, you're absolutely right. We wanted something more than what we were getting out of our current situation in society. And that's at least what led me to military. I was bored. I'm like, there's got to be more to life than this. This sucks.
Yeah. It's the veterans don't come back in society. We were never a part of it.
Yes.
We leave when we're 18 and we join and we don't know what we want and we come back. So yeah, I think the older we get, the faster we can move as far as making decisions and implementing change in your life. So I think the older you get, you can look back and reflect and realize that, all right, maybe I did join the military because I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere, or I didn't feel like I really had a place in this world, right? And you look back and you realize that, well, okay, if that was a part of it, that means that we need to think about what it means when we get out of the military.
Yep.
So I was kind of a screw up as a kid, not to my parents' fault, but to me. I got expelled from high school. I ended up getting suspended. Eventually ended up back at the high school that I was at, but I had undiagnosed ADHD. And I think that's for a lot of people that go into the military. And like the military was that structure, of like, if you do this at this time, then you will like succeed. So like, that's the one thing that you think about. Like, I better do that at this one time. If you do extra work, you get applauded for the right reasons. And like, you get that dopamine hit, right? And if you mess up, you will be chastised. So like, you get that reward punishment system, like,
Yeah.
And it just plays a huge part in like creating that structure for you. Yeah. And then you get out of the military and you don't realize that structure was a privilege.
Mm-hmm.
And then before you know it, like, it's been 3, 4, 5 months and like you haven't gone to the gym once. You haven't even realized it because you just don't think about it, because one day you threw your gym bag in the closet and like you just completely stopped forgetting about it, or started forgetting about it. And then before you know it, you're like, holy shit, like I'm heavier. I haven't gone to the gym. I've been drinking every night because it feels good. And like, what am I doing with myself?
It's those foundational structures that they put in place, the physical activity that I know I'm going to say the eating right, but I know that a lot of times in the military, you're out working a bad diet.
I think eating consistently.
Yes.
Because like, for the most part, even when you're in the field, like everyone's eating at the same time, like you're not missing 2 or 3 meals and then like binging late at night. I mean, you're still not developing the best habits, but like you have a consistent,
and there's still oversight on you, as opposed to, if you start not making weight and tape, or you start failing physically, you're going to find out real quick, at least if you have some good leadership above you, because they're going to see that and they're going to call you out and they're going to correct it, or you're going to suffer the wrath.
Yeah.
So no. That's, I mean, those foundations are there for a reason, and it helps so many people out by just realizing that and saying, hey, look, if anything, hold on to that end of things when you leave, when you go out that door, because you let that go. Like you were just saying, undiagnosed ADHD. And that is one thing that people with ADHD thrive in the military because of that structure, and it's rewarded because you can deal with a lot all at once. I know there's stuff going around on social right now. I've seen a lot more like an uptick on it with ADHD stuff, talking about ADHD person in a crisis type situation. And it's like the world is just falling apart around them and they're just humming along. They're just like, okay, not a problem, because it's at that level of where their brain is going. Yeah. Well, I mean, so you leaving the Marines, leaving that scout sniper position, putting on that police uniform, what was that like for you? I mean, was it just like an extension of what you were doing, or did you have to kind of change mindset?
Honestly, it felt like there was no break in service. It felt like, so I got out and there was about a year. It was about a year where I wasn't doing the law enforcement thing. So I did the security thing. That didn't work out. That was in San Francisco. Anyway, I ended up moving back to Chicago. I got back to Chicago in like May of 2013. And from May of 2013 until November of 2014, that's when I was just working whatever I could. I didn't want like a career. I didn't knew what I wanted. I was going to college, um, trying to just do everything that I could, just trying to fill my life with something that would give me a little bit of meaning.
Yeah.
And I wasn't finding it. And I would pretend that I had meaning in what I was doing. I was the president of the Student Veterans Union at DePaul University. And I mean, it was awesome. And I built it up and I got us into the SVU and I went to this conference. And then I would just find something else that gave me some meaning. And that was like the relationship. I'm like, all right, I guess I better get engaged. I think this is what I have to do. And I never fucking stopped and asked myself, like, what do I want? Never. I just thought about what do I have to do? What am I supposed to do? What is the mission? What is phase 2 of the operation? And I never fucking stopped and really like had a conversation with myself about what do I want. And I kept asking, like, what do I need to do? What is the next step in this mission? And that's, all right, get a job, become a cop. And I tested everywhere. I mean, I tested everywhere. I probably did about 30 police tests. And when I finally got hired with CPD, Chicago Police, like 2 other departments called me at the same time because that was the mission. All right. And then the other mission was get engaged, get married, spend a bunch of money on the freaking wedding that, I don't even remember because I was too drunk to enjoy it. And it's funny, but it's also sad because like, that's all I knew, and I went to the police department and I was, pretending that I knew everything because that's what confidence means in the military. Fake it till you make it, the fake motivation, going up the hill, all that good stuff. And you think that that's enough because that's all you've known. So I went in, and before that I was selling sheets at a mall. I was doing random weird odd end jobs. I was working at a nonprofit helping veterans with like stuff that I still needed help with. And that was an amazing opportunity because it made me feel like a little bit of a mission, a little bit of purpose. But going to the department, I tried everything I could to make it to the back office, which is like each district has a TAC team, and that's the plainclothes guys that get to wear whatever they want. And that's where I wanted to get to, and that was like my mission. And I got there, and I basically did that in different ways for most of my career. So it was in different fashions. I did the TAC thing. I wrote search warrants. I got guns. I got chased bad guys with guns, got dope off the street. I was an intelligence officer for a little bit for the area that I worked with on the west side of Chicago. And then we finally, like most of our team, because it was very much like the military. Like you had a freaking team. I had my sergeant who was like my squad leader, right? Who like, if he fucking told me like, hey, grab that guy, I'm grabbing that guy. Like It was just instant, Same willingness and obedience to orders. Like it was very much like that. And to top it all off, of course, he was also a Marine, right? See the knife hand. So
like, he knew. Yeah.
He knew what buttons to push, but he also knew how to take care of me. And he helped me a lot. And honestly, like this feels therapeutic because I don't think I've ever acknowledged this out loud. And he was able to be there for me. And I had a team of people around me. My partner, he wasn't a veteran, but he very much understood what it meant to like be a cop. He came from a family of cops, and we had an entire team, and we kicked ass. We did amazing stuff, and most of us ended up in the same unit working undercover. Specifically, like me, my partner, and my sergeant. And we got to a unit, and I was working undercover, and I remember like how fun it was, but also how scary it was, and how wild it was. And I had my son by this time. And I remember buying dope on the west side of Chicago, and like just knowing that it was going to be a new experience, and knowing that like I don't have a gun, I'm not wearing a vest. They can hear me, they can't see me, but if something happens, like I have QRF outside, and because I trusted them, I was okay. And I was like, yeah. One time I spent like an hour in this truck with an individual that we were working, and I was just sitting there smoking Newports. just talking to him. And I remember I felt like I was like back in Cicero, which is where like I grew up initially. Then I was involved in some gang stuff when I was younger. Um, and I didn't feel like I was a cop. And I think that's the point that you want to get to when you work undercover, right? Um, and then it all came crashing down. They disbanded the unit, and they ended up putting us on the trains. So I went from feeling like I had a mission, right, purpose, to arresting people for not paying their train fare. Right. And you get that because you understand how important like an individual's mission is, because a mission isn't just something that you're doing for someone else, but it means that like you feel like you have direction in life. You feel like you are making an impact.
Yeah.
Something, right? Like even like freaking 2010 Afghanistan. There's so many arguments about what happened over there, and we won't get to it. I feel like we definitely could, but like I remember knowing that like this little boy that I was playing with will have a better day, better week, better year because we're here, right? And we don't know what's happened now, right? We don't. We dropped the ball on that one as a country.
Yeah, but I mean, you grow into that role, you know. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that is like you were just saying. It didn't feel like you were that police officer anymore. You weren't throwing those vibes. That wasn't the, you became that undercover role, and the same thing with Afghanistan. Um, Wild enough, man. And in 2010 exactly, like that's when I was there.
Yeah.
And I've actually had stuff through social and through some other stuff that I've had an interesting, a unique opportunity, if you will. And I've been able to share it with the other guys that were there, but I've actually had some of the kids, one of them that was 10 years old at the time, reach out to me through the social.
No way.
Oh man, it was
Dude,
the
that's wild, man.
crazy, and like literally came out like thanking me. Their family was evac'd in 2012, and due to certain stuff that happened in that region, I knew exactly why, and I kind of still was skeptical until, I asked about a particular point because
Yeah, I can imagine.
yeah, and he described the point to where we would meet these kids, where this
Yeah.
particular group of kids was to a T, and I was just like, nobody would have that info, man. Like,
Yeah.
holy crap, like this is the real deal. And how many people ever get that follow-on experience, or much less Afghan fans coming out? Like there was another one that's still living there that literally did a motorcycle drive-by video of the location of one of our old combat outposts and was like, hey, passing by today, and I figured I'd send you,
Dude,
some
that's wild,
footage. And I'm
man.
just like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, just crazy.
That is so cool.
Crazy stuff.
I've always like wondered if that ever happens. Like I've actually wondered. I wonder if anybody ever like grows up and reaches like and like to hear you tell me this is pretty awesome. So
You have
thank
no
you. This
idea
is
the
a
ripple
gift.
effect. I
This
mean,
is a gift, man. I appreciate that.
the people that tune into you, I mean, at the same time, you have no idea how far reaching things go until it starts coming back. And I mean, man, for a hot minute on some of this stuff, I was just like, is anybody even listening here? Is
Yeah.
anybody paying attention? And this stuff starts coming out down the road, and you're like, you got to be kidding me. So yeah, man, no, hang in there. That stuff's coming for you.
Yeah.
It is.
People definitely pay attention. I think that do you know what I see it, Will? It's there's something about you, and I want to make it clear because I know that there's a lot of people that see this about you and maybe haven't said it to you, but I want to say it because I feel like I have this too. So this is a compliment, but it's also like self-compliment, right? I think that there's something about you that matters, and I think that's the fact that like you are curious and you are a genuine, and it shines through, man. Like it fucking shines through. You've let me sit here and rant and talk, and you've listened and you've engaged, but at the same time you're curious. You're not here to tell me about all your stuff. You're curious about my story, right?
Yeah.
And the genuineness of it shines through. And then you telling me this story and connecting. I think people see that and they're watching your videos, they're listening to the podcast, they're doing all this stuff, and just want to tell you, man, it's amazing. And honestly, like, I'm having a great time. So let's keep going.
Thanks, man. That's some high praise, man. Seriously, thank you. I appreciate
Bro.
that. No, I think that that's something that's lacking in society as well, right there. That genuineness.
Yeah.
There's someone I know that, he was someone that I was deployed with at one point, but his wife has no background there. But whenever his friends come around and everything, she loves being around all of us.
Mhm.
And that's one of the things she says is she's like, you guys are genuine. I feel like I can take that filter that I have to put on when I'm in the corporate world or when I'm, you know, in that business end of things where it's so political, and I can just let all of that drop because you guys are accepting for who I am, but I'm also seeing who you are right there. And that's something that I think, that's one of the things that resonated with the videos and stuff and the shows that I listened to of yours and everything was that exactly it right there. Genuineness coming through, telling, even if it's about your own faults or your learning experiences. As a matter of fact, the one I was talking about on the VetRise podcast, one of the ones that I was floored by, man. Like seriously, there was points in it that made me tear up. And that's the emotional intelligence episode that you had there on VetRise podcast, and it's so true, man. It really is. Um, yeah, no, I mean what you're creating there and what you're doing there is it's needed. It's much needed because that talking openly about that stuff, even if it's to one's own fault, but passing that knowledge along to others is fantastic, honestly.
I'm just pulling up what episode it is because I want to make sure that if anybody wants to listen to it,
Oh,
109, 109. So that one I actually, I'll tell you a story about it. Um, so that was from a coaching call that I did for my clients, and I ended up redoing it because I wasn't satisfied the first time that I did it because of the preparation that went into it, and it was a lesson that I had just learned. So I think that one of the biggest things that veterans, and this is the veteran culture, so we'll segue back into it. We'll come back. Um, I think a lot of veterans feel like in the military they were put through courses. They never had to pay for a course or anything extra, right? They were put through courses. They spent a lot of money on especially the guys that were in different platoons. Like I was in a state platoon. I bought thousands of dollars of equipment, my own pack, all this extra high speed stuff that's sitting in my garage, just sitting there. Um, anyway, but they don't have to pay for any courses, right? Like you don't have to pay to go to jump school. You don't have to pay to go to scout sniper school. Like you have to pay for gear, but mentally you don't connect the two. So I think a lot of veterans, they get out and they don't want to pay for a coach or a mentor program, or they feel like I have a free program through the VA, I'll do this. And there's nothing wrong with the VA, but my point is everybody else out here pays for shit,
yeah.
and they get the foot up on you when you're not willing to do that.
Yep.
So the reason I say all this isn't for me. I have a coaching program, but like the point is I paid for a business coach. I spent a lot of money on it. And I go on about 2 trips a year to Canada, which is where they're based out of, and I learn so much when I go. So I went again in April of this year, and keep in mind, business coach teaching me how to grow my business. And the first class that he did was on the topic of emotional intelligence. And he talked about loving yourself, and he talked about how like you cannot outgrow your pain. Like it's not about becoming. A lot of it is about unbecoming. And man, I'll tell you, by the end of like his first like presentation, I was crying. I was realizing how angry I was. I was angry at my ex-wife. I was angry at my parents. I was angry at myself. I was angry at the military. And the anger doesn't mean hate. It just means you have something that's unresolved, something that you have to come to peace with. And I came back and I started applying it, not just for my life, but for the way that I coach, the way that I talk to my clients, the things that I say to them, because a lot of them have been around for a while, and they know the story of when I quit my job because they disbanded the unit, and I had 2 years. I gave myself a 2-year mark to like build my business and quit my job, and I quit the police job last year. They knew that at the same time I was going through a divorce. The police were being called to me, like people that I knew. Like a cop showed up to my house that I had worked with at one point, there to deal with me. Thankfully, there was nothing that I had done. There was, and the reason why like I don't want to tell the story anymore is because that's part of the thing that I want to talk about. That I had all this anger, all this hate, all this like operating from a place of anger, resentment, and proving people wrong, and you cannot that cannot be your fuel. It might be the fire that ignites you, but like you got to get to a place of love because eventually you're gonna run out of that. The whole point is that you get to a life that is so much better than what it was.
Yeah.
That what will you use then? If you don't have anything in your environment that is like pissing you off,
Yeah.
what will be your motivation then? It's about where you want to get to, what you're running towards, not what you're running away from. And I've been unbecoming a lot of that. I do hypnotherapy. I actively wake up in the morning and I tell myself today's gonna be the best day ever, and I really believe that, Will. Truly.
You have to.
And
No, there's so much power in that. There is. It's what is the two dogs that you feed, right? The age old allegory of that, where you have the anger or the love. It's the same thing. Which dog are you feeding?
yes, yeah. And I used to tell the story differently of like, I was going through a divorce and I was, quitting my job at the same time and I was doing all this. And when you just repeat the story, that's all you know. That's what your mind believes no matter what. And now I'd rather tell the story of I was going through a divorce, yes, but like thankfully her and I are on good terms and I can show up for her because it's at the end of the day, it's the mother of my children. So that's something that like I've been reprogramming in my brain. Just it's about unbecoming and leading from a place of love and abundance. So yeah. And I think it's hard for veterans, man.
That's huge, right there. And you're oh man, because well, you look too. You said it before, Afghanistan, and how we left that country and whatnot. There's a lot that we could be angry about on that. Did you make a difference when you were there though? Is there, and that's another, yeah, I guess that's another reason to be very intentional and in the moment where you are and like think of those secondary and tertiary effects that are going to happen down the road there from your actions in the right now. Because if you're not doing the right thing at that moment, it might come back and haunt you later on. And I think that sometimes, people lose sight of that and they get in that moment to where they're not thinking down the road. And if you're not programmed right, or if you're not in that right zone of where you're saying like love instead of hate here, which is hard to look at in a lot of instances, especially with some of the extreme circumstances that we deal with in the military. But finding that place of love there, when we do, and when you operate off of that, it's just a whole different world. You're right on there. You're spot on, man.
It's hard, man. It's hard, but it's worth doing, It's worth doing.
It is.
I love the hard stuff because it's that much more rewarding when you can accomplish it.
Well, and that's what anything worth doing, right, is going to be tough. Anything that I've found that's been worth in the long run, it's never the easy stuff. The easy stuff is just icing on the cake. But it's putting forth that effort and doing the hard work, because then it becomes easy. But then it's what nobody ever tells you is there's that next hurdle, that next mountain. It doesn't stop. It doesn't stop right there. You think that you're going to get over that hump and it's over with, right? No, you've just gone to, what is it? False summit.
Yeah. False summit.
Oh,
there's another hill.
There it is.
Yeah. There's always another hill.
What made you decide to start the podcast stuff? Was that just hand in hand with, the coaching business and stuff that you had going on? You left the police force and then like there's this whole coaching business end of things, and there's this podcast and there's this giving back into the veteran community. What spurred that on and what flipped that switch for you?
Good question. I started the business because I knew that I couldn't do what I was doing. I was losing myself. I lost my mission, and I had a child at the time, and I ended up finding out that I had another one on the way, beautiful boy and girl. And I I knew that I wanted to do something else, and I didn't know what it was, but I knew that I wanted to find a way to help people. I've always had like an entrepreneurial spirit, and my parents taught me that, right? But at the same time, when I was working undercover, I didn't have social media. I couldn't be on social media, so it was a complete 180. And I remember like making the first videos and how hard it was and how cringe it felt, right? And how many times I had to re-record them, and the ums and the buts and the and it gets to a point where you stop paying attention to it so much that you don't focus on it and you just get better at it. You just flow because you let go of what you believe will be that one or two people criticizing you, or the three or four people that you think, oh, well, if that one friend sees this, you're giving away all your power, all your potential to people that probably aren't even thinking about you, right? So I stopped caring what people think, and I started caring more about the impact that I want to make. And I started the podcast because one day I was on a podcast and it ended up not getting released right away. And I bared my soul. And I remember thinking, I'm like, well, I can do this too. And I did it. So I went online, researched it. We already had an account set up to do podcasts because it was one of those like, whiteboard future idea things.
Yep.
And I just recorded my first episode in my parents' kitchen when I was there, when my parents were watching my kids, because there was a point in my time where, like, I had to work 24/7. And I'm not one to say that you should do that, but I think there are seasons of life that to get to that point when you can take weekends off and you can be with your kids and be with your kids, you got to understand that there's a trade-off, and there momentarily will be a time when you have to work weekends, you have to work evenings, you have to give everything that you can to truly get something, not just like off the ground, but really like launch. And when you launch it and it's in space and it's freaking doing its thing, and you keep getting further and further and exploring different planets, like this is my metaphor, right? Then you can take some time for yourself and really do more healing. But you got to have that season of being willing to just go all in, right? A lot of people tell you, well, don't put all your eggs in one basket. I heard this a while back. I forget who it was that said this. I always suck at like remembering who.
Is this the burn the
right?
boats?
It's different because
Okay.
that one also resonates with me, and I'm sure that one has been. I mean, we tie that to, I think, Columbus. Right, to burn the
It's
boats
Cortez,
one.
but yeah, it's one
Cortez.
of them.
You're
Yeah.
right, Cortez. Yeah, Cortez down south. Yeah. Yeah, because Columbus, he couldn't burn those boats; they became famous. Anyway, it's the metaphor of people saying, "Don't put your eggs in one basket," right? And there's somebody that added to it that said, "Put your eggs in one basket, and then watch it like it's the most important thing in your life, because it will give you all of the growth that you want." And that's what I did. And as I did the podcast, as some of my videos went viral, as we went from like 2,000 followers on socials to I think we're at like 70,000 followers right now, like
Nice.
across all platforms. It wasn't one of those things of it happened by accident. No, it was by design.
Yeah.
Right? It was by design because I hired team members that I paid money full time before I ever paid myself anything in my business. I organized and I curated my life the way that I wanted it to. I made sure that my divorce was finalized before November of last year because I knew that I had to quit my job in November and I wouldn't be able to if I was still going through the divorce. I knew that I quit my job with $500 in my bank account, and everybody told me I was crazy. But to be honest with you, like, that's okay. They're not in my shoes. People don't know what you are going through. Nobody can. Nobody, not even your parents, not even people closest to you sometimes, because like nobody's in your brain with you,
Yeah.
And I did it. And TikTok, like the day I announced that I was quitting my job, like we got shadow banned on TikTok. And I was getting all these signs of like the signs that people would take as a reason to slow down. And I reached out to my business coach, Brian Mark. And I told him, like, dude, like, I don't know, should I wait? And as soon as I typed it to him, I knew my answer. And I was like, no. And he's like, no, don't freaking wait. And he knows my story. He's an amazing coach. And he told me, like, when I was, he told me the reflections that I needed. Like, this is what happened to me when I was about to, break through. You're about to break through something. And I did it. I quit the job. I believed in it so much. When the TikTok ban was happening, we pivoted. We doubled down on IG, and it's been freaking working. And honestly, it's not by accident.
Yeah.
Like, success leaves clues. Right. So like when you're doing the one thing that's really working and you're self-aware, you're paying attention, you can see why you should do the thing that really benefits you.
Yep.
Like, Will, think about it. And anybody listening, think about a time when you drank yourself silly all weekend and your Monday and your Tuesday were crap, right? You know that it's not something you should do, but you weren't as self-aware as you are now.
Yeah.
Think about a time when you actually hit the gym. You got your 3 meals a day. You did a walk outside. You got some fresh air. You felt alive. And then you went to bed on time because you had a great day and you woke up the next day. If you look back and you pay attention to it, you're like, yeah, I want to replicate that. So every day is a freaking gift, man. Every freaking day. And I believe that truly.
Life leaves those clues. Like,
Yes.
that's so great what you were saying on that. When you wake up in the morning, are you feeling better about your actions? Are you feeling refreshed? Do you feel like ready to take on, or do you want to be that person who's just stumbling through life? Well, gotta go into work, and hungover.
Dude. Yeah.
And so many people live like that. Like, it's almost like
Yeah.
you're like in a shadow. Like, what is going on here, man?
And they accept it.
Yeah.
Because they believe that there's no other way.
Yeah.
Because and it's hard. It's hard because you leave the military and you leave everything you've ever known, like the culture that you've developed over the past 4+ years, maybe less, maybe more. And you're moving back home, or whether you stay in the same state or wherever you go, you have to understand that it is as if you are moving into a different country.
Yep.
The things that you've learned over the past 4 years were very formative. Your brain is developing. I mean, I know that I don't know about the female brain or the male brain. I don't know what the difference is, but like our brain is still developing into, I think, our 20s, right? So like you're learning what it means to do well by the things that you do well in the military and how you are not necessarily celebrated, but encouraged, right? Like we all know what it means to be able to do something really well and your platoon sergeant doesn't freaking throw you a parade, but he tells you like, good fucking job. And like you keep that and you remember what it feels like. And then you get out and there's no one there to tell you good fucking job. And it's like, where do I get my sense of accomplishment? It's not that I met the timeline. It's not that we conducted this mission successfully. It's like there's no quick dopamine hit. So we look for it in alcohol, in only hanging out with veterans, in isolation, in developing hate towards society.
Yep.
And that fucking hurts us so much.
That was one of the things in college, actually. And I love the vet center, that was at my college. It was great, but it was almost like the guys that were there on the GI Bill, and you knew who they were. You could easily spot us around campus.
Wearing the freaking 511s or that was me.
Sometimes the older person, that was the weirdest world for me to jump into after, and just due to, I guess, progress within the progress. Where things were within the social media atmosphere and everything else. Like, I mean, around the cough and everything and whatnot, it was just Facebook. We didn't progress past. We didn't talk to the younger Joes that were coming in. So TikTok was something so completely foreign. And I think the first time it really hit me was when there's a college student and they're walking along and they've got just the ho-hum face, resting bitch face maybe, or something like that. And they're just walking along, looking at their phone. And then it's like this, they hold their phone up and they fake as hell smile or something. And then back to the resting bitch face. And I'm like, what just happened, man? Like, this is life now?
Yeah.
Like, what is going on here? And that's just, I started realizing that, all right, things changed quite a bit. and I wasn't paying attention, while I was in, because I was in my own little insulated world, and it didn't fit the mission set to know that other stuff.
Yeah. When did you get out?
Well, so what reserves? I was in the reserves until 18, but 15, late 15
Mhm.
is when I got out. Did 3 years
Yeah.
of the reserves. That was, man, the reserves were interesting. The reserves were, it was like the commander wanted everyone to be at the speed of a full-time, active duty job, and wanted all those trainings and everything done off cycle, because we had so much to train in on the cycle. And I'm like, but I'm not going to do that because I'm not getting paid outside of here. So why am I going to do that? If you guys want to pay
Yeah.
me, on those, that's cool. But uh, I didn't realize on how much different that world would be over there.
Mhm.
And I was just like, you guys have it probably worse than the active side, because you're expected to
Interesting.
do two. That was my thought anyway.
No, I agree with you, and I wanna offer a different perspective for you that I think will resonate with you. So I'll share this. So I think that social media is a tool, right? Just like everything else.
Yeah.
You can decide what you use it for. You can go on the internet and watch stupid videos on YouTube, or you can go on the internet and find a video of how to start your own business, right?
Yep.
And it's a tool. And it wasn't around when I was in. I think Facebook was just being popular. iPhones weren't really a thing. I remember one of the boots that I was with getting yelled at because he was taking notes on his iPhone instead of having, the green book with you take notes.
Yep.
And the senior Marines like grabbed his phone and threw it across the room. They didn't know it was an expensive iPhone. Yeah, but I remember it was just becoming a thing, and we didn't really have social media when we were in. Like, yeah, we had Facebook or whatever, and we would check it when we were on deployment to see if anybody, gave us a little comment or whatever. But it wasn't like it is now. And now a lot of guys reach out to me that are about to get out, and they're using social media to learn what it means to be on the other side of it. And I think it's a great tool when used the right way.
Yeah.
Right. But I think that for the longest, like, I also ignored it. Right. And I'll add this. So like one of the guys that reached out to me, he's a reservist, and he tells me that he feels like he can't talk about the things that bother him because he's not active duty. So he feels like people will think that he's complaining, but at the same time, he also feels like the way that he phrased it, what he feels like other veterans don't see him as a real veteran because he got out of the reserves. Because it's like, well, I deployed, but I wasn't active duty. So I feel like when I talk about being a veteran, if they talk about, well, what unit were you with? He's almost afraid to say it because he's been judged in the past. So it's like they don't get to participate all the way as far as some people believe, but also they're not just part of regular society. So they have like this weird relationship with the military and being a veteran. And I think there's this like a little bit of an identity crisis there. Because I did the reserves for a little bit too,
Yeah.
and it was different. And I only did it. I only went to drill like 3 times. Yeah, and there's a reason. So like I got out in 2013, and immediately I knew that I wanted to do the reserves because I'm like, I need something that keeps me like close to the sniper community. So I was trying to get back into a sniper platoon, and it took me about a year to get into the sniper platoon because of the tattoo policy at the time. And I had tattoos that I were grandfathered in, but I had to get special waivers. And when I finally made it into the platoon, about 3 months later, the police department called me and they told me that I was going to start the police academy. So I had my fits of purpose, right? So I ended up, saying that I don't want to drill anymore, and I didn't. Um, and then my plan was to go back, but I didn't know this. Apparently, your time as a poolee counts towards your inactive ready reserve time. So I thought that I had until, I guess it would be, I thought I had like like a year left before I would be out and I would get my honorable discharge
Yep.
in the mail. And I remember getting it one day, and I'm like, "What? Why now?" And I found out that like whatever time you have as a poolee, like the moment that you talk to a recruiter and you choose your ship date and you sign the paperwork and you raise your right hand, like all of that counts
Hmm.
towards your time in. Yeah.
See, I didn't know that either.
Yeah,
Ah,
I found out because I got my honorable discharge in the mail. I'm like, this is early.
the reserves was interesting for me.
Yeah.
I ended up basically doing 3 years unpaid. Um, yeah, well, it came back like 6 months later that I had a rating, and I was just like, oh, well, that's cool. And then they were like, yeah, so here's the cash for this, but everything we paid you before needs to come back now.
Yeah.
I'm like,
It's
but
like either or, right?
you already took taxes though.
Yeah.
Oh, it was interesting. It was
Yeah.
interesting. I left frustration there. Um,
Yeah.
that's a whole nother story for another day, man. But
I hear you.
but as far as guys feeling like they're not, I guess, either worthy of that veteran title or they don't feel like they're accepted into the veteran community because they were just a reservist or just in the National Guard. Like, you got to be
Yeah.
kidding me. You raised your hand and you don't know what's going to happen. You took
Yeah.
that chance, you took that step and did something that so many Americans either don't or don't even consider, even if they are able to. And you were the one who took that step and you recited that oath and meant it, or at least I hope they meant it, because you never know when that's going to come back around, when that's going to be called upon,
Yeah.
to defend this country, to defend the ideals and everything that's within the Constitution,
Yeah.
especially this day and age. And that's something we could talk about right there is I guess some of the toxicity that's out there within the veteran community to where somebody says that they don't feel like they can call themselves a veteran because they were just a reservist. Like, come on, it's
Yeah. We do it to ourselves.
yeah,
I'll tell you right now, all the hate that I've gotten, and it's mostly on Facebook, it's from veterans. It's from people that feel as if I am offending them personally
yep,
when I say that as a veteran, it's on you. The ownership is on you. That you are the one that has to heal, that the military is not responsible for you after the military. The military knows this, and the military is in charge of creating warfighters and winning wars. And when you get out, it is on you. And you have to find the tools. You have to be willing to ask for help. But too many veterans don't realize the issues that they have,
yeah,
and they get offended when they get called out on the issues. And they comment before they think, and these comments get seen by other people, newer veterans, people that are getting out. And then they feel like, whoa, shit, well, I don't want to be attacked or ridiculed if I get help or if I go to the VA, or my buddy told me that the VA did this to him. And it's a singular instance, but what you don't know is that your buddy was an asshole to the people at the VA and he showed up 2 hours late and he's missed his appointments. So now we get this story, this
yeah,
narrative of a single individual. And I'm not saying that anything is perfect because nothing is perfect, but it's just like any organization, any institution, anything. If you go to any hospital, if you go to an ER right now and you are an asshole, you're not going to be seen first. Like that is just normal life,
yep,
right? So too many veterans get out and they see other people, other veterans spewing their feelings. And you have to remember, you have a responsibility to the veteran community of truly trying your best, because if it's not for you, it's for the other people around you.
yeah,
In the military, we do a great job of taking care of those people beneath us, and we don't realize that when we get out, we still have influence over new veterans that are getting out, veterans that are on social media and they see that there's people like me talking about this or that, and then they see that there's other people that say that, oh well, this isn't true, I hate civilians, blah blah blah. Like, you're here now, you're out.
yeah.
Like
Nah,
and it's frustrating, of course, but at
it
the same
is.
time, I think that it is trending in the right direction, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, part of that has to do with an accountability thing. Someone gets put under the microscope like that. Yeah, yeah. I was laughing in the background because when you were saying that about other veterans at an ER, or the hospital being an asshole. So my wife actually works as a nurse. She's an RN, but she works a few different ends, and will end up sometimes doing ER shifts. And we're fairly close to a military base, so there's a lot of veterans around. And she was like, they are the worst. They'll come in and they'll be hanging this on it. Well, I'm a freaking veteran, and she just tells them, like, she's like, yeah, I just tell them to shut the fuck up because I'm a veteran as well.
Yeah.
And like that just stops them dead in their
Yeah.
tracks. They're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, 5 years in the Air Force, shut up.
Yeah. It's this weird thing. You're a veteran, right? What does that mean? It means that you served your country. It means that you took the oath. You did your part, right? And here's the thing that people confuse. They'll take a snippet, they'll hear me or you or someone say one thing, and they'll be like, well, you don't understand. There's people that went through combat, there's people that went through trauma. Those are the people that are supposed to get the most help. Those are the ones that should speak out the most. Those are the ones that need this type of conversation more than anybody else, right? But they're the ones that don't want to hear it because they feel like, well, I have to be self-sufficient.
Yep.
Because in the military, I got back from my first deployment to Afghanistan, and I remember very much being told, without being told, that you are okay. And we all had to go, and we had to go through this thing where there was a tent set up, and there was a therapist there, psychoanalyzing you, a psychiatrist, to make sure you were okay. And you're told basically, you're okay before you go in there, because you know that you cannot be broken. In the military, you have to be of use.
Yep.
That is how the military classifies you. And it made sense. It's needed then. But then you take that mindset and then you get out and you adopt it again, and you tell yourself, like, I can't get help. I can't talk about my PTSD. I can't talk about this or that. And then you wear this trauma as a badge of honor of, like, I'm fucked up because I deployed to Afghanistan. I did more than everybody else. I saw my buddies die. I was in combat. I deserve more, but yet you won't get the help that's there.
Yeah. That's exactly right. It's okay. So you had your buddies lost, or you have guys that are struggling because they're missing limbs. All right, what are you doing about it?
Right.
Turn that. I think people don't like it when they turn that magnifying glass inward, and they start looking at it, and it's uncomfortable. But you have to be comfortable with that end of things, or you're never going to experience that growth. Because finding that cancer, that spot that's holding you back, it's uncomfortable. But what's we joke around about this all the time, but what rock lobster, right? Yeah. You have to become uncomfortable, or being comfortable with being uncomfortable, because those are those periods of growth. I truly believe it. And I think Mike Tyson is where I first heard this, which I know it's not from him. It didn't originate from him, but every time I hear it, that God will give you anything that your heart desires, just to see if you can handle it. And it's so true, because you hit one level, but then what you were saying before, you're hitting some friction, and you're like, what's going on here? And you're about to make that breakthrough, but it's, how are you handling yourself? Yeah, that's it. I had a car wreck recently, and the guy that hit us afterwards, I'm checking over my daughter who was in the car too, after just checking myself over. It was a pretty bad wreck. Thankfully, just by the grace of God, we were okay in how everything happened. But afterwards, the other guy that hit us is out in the road screaming obscenities, kicking and punching his own freaking car, which is completely ruined at this point. And I look over and I see this, and the first thing that goes through my head is, am I going to have to fight this guy? Because
Right.
who knows?
Right.
People are crazy. But then that was me. A few years ago, that was me.
Yeah.
And that dawning realization, and that's choking me up right now. In seeing that and having that clarity to understand that, that's big right there, man. as a moment.
Yeah,
And I see something with you too there.
that was me too.
Yeah.
I I think once you have children, you really understand what's important in life.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was me too. I I used to wear this badge of honor of everybody that wasn't on my team was jealous of us, was envious because we did more. And we did more, but it was because we didn't have anything else going on. And I say that not to put any of us down on the team of what we did, but it was very much we made it our identity, especially me. And I'll speak for me, not for them. I made it my identity. And I remember being very much open to one day we had an incident at work and we got a guy that he had a gun and we got him in a little convenience store and his family was there and we had to like kind of barricade ourselves in the little convenience store because there was a crowd forming outside
Mm.
and we were calling for more cars and nobody from our district showed up. And it was because we had developed this reputation of being assholes. And in the moment, it didn't bother me. It was like, yeah, of course they wouldn't show up, you know? It's fine. Built more animosity. And I just, you look back and you realize that you create your own environment. You can't blame the world for your problems.
Yeah.
We get out, we are a certain way, we take a certain job, we get into a certain relationship. We are the common denominator no matter what. And like your environment is not, like you are not a product of your environment. Your environment is a product of your decisions. When you own that, when you truly like not just believe that, but you understand that it is a process that you have slowly worked yourself into, there's a gift there because you can start making different decisions today and end up in a different place tomorrow, in a week, in a month, in a decade. And there's just so much fucking power in knowing that you have so much more control over your life. And I did that. Like I left a career that has a pension, that has amazing benefits, that has all the overtime in the world, that gives you purpose, even when you feel like you have none, that you get to go into work and you're hanging out with your boys.
Yeah.
And I left that for the uncertainty of what it means to do your own thing, to run your own business. And that's because I want to create a different environment for myself. And that was me too. I was that type of person. And I think that growth comes from knowing that you can be dangerous and you could have fought that guy if you needed to, but knowing that you don't have to and that you don't want to.
Yeah.
And looking at the other person and being able to see, is it true that his car is wrecked? Sure. Is it useful that he's going to sit there and do the things that he does? No, it's not.
Yeah.
Is it true that just because it's true doesn't mean that it's useful? You have to ask yourself, what is the useful thing for me right now in this moment? What is the thing that I need to respond to instead of reacting? And I've worked that mindset, that mentality into every aspect of my life, even with the way that I lead my team, the way that I raise my children, the way that I co-parent, the way that I coach, the way that I treat myself. Because it's a freaking gift, man. Like every day,
Yeah.
it's a gift. Mm.
There's a book that comes to mind that I read, and it's I can't remember the author, but it's called The One Thing, and it's talking about, identifying, like having that list of things that are going to make a change, but then identifying the one that's going to make the greatest and have the greatest effect on everything else. And it's like, put your efforts on that. Multitasking
Yeah.
is bullshit, which,
Yes.
I agree with. It is. Like,
And
I
it's
mean, you can
hard
do
to
a lot of
accept that
stuff.
for a veteran.
It is. Oh my gosh, because you're a multi-tool. You're a freaking
Yep.
Gerber.
You are. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
to be able to do that and then break it down, but then you start realizing that that focused effort is pushing you along so much further, not only in mindset, or in the practice of it, but in the mindset, and shifting that mindset to that is huge. And I'll have to put it in the links, but
For sure.
for everybody listening, because I mean that book right there it breaks it down exactly what you're saying right there, and it explains it in just such a way to where I was like, man, that's phenomenal. It's great advice, and sometimes it's something that I got to come back to, because it's like I piled so much on the plate, and then it's like, what are you doing, man?
Yeah.
Go back. You got to break it down. Is that something that you've kind of found, like during everything too? Is like, hey, where's my re-evaluation spots? Where's my checkpoints of like, all right, where am I at here? Where's my left and right limits? Am I outside of that?
So every Sunday I do a reset and I look at my calendar, but it's not just about looking at the future. You have to treat your calendar as a map. You have to look back at the waypoints that you established. You have to look back at where you lost course. And you have to look back at your last week. And everything is on my calendar. And I show my clients my calendar, and I always preface it with, this gives people anxiety when they see it, but it gives me peace, because I know that I'll pick up my kids on time. I know that I have my oil change scheduled. I know that I've automated and I've curated my life to the point where everything flows so smoothly, so I don't get anxiety. And anytime I do get anxiety, to me, it's a gift, because now I get to handle it. It's an alarm that goes off in my head of, what is this one thing that is popping up for me? And then I have a piece of paper where I have two columns, and one is a 30-minute column and a 1 hour column.
Yep.
So depending on whatever pops up in my brain of like, oh shit, I haven't done this, it goes on that page and it lives there. It's out of my brain at that point. And then on Sunday, when I review my week and I look back at what went well, what didn't go well, what has to change, I find spots where I can add the 1 hour items or the 30-minute items onto that list. Sorry, my dog is right here. He's wagging his tail. I agree with you. Multitasking is bullshit. As veterans, we feel like we have to do everything, right?
Yeah.
And especially with ADHD, I remember I used to think like, oh, I'm a great multitasker, and in reality, no, I just never finished anything because I was working on 5 different things at once.
Yep.
And I think one of the realizations I had, Will, was that your energy is just as important as your time, because you can't move from one thing that requires creative energy into something that requires analysis.
Yep.
So you have to protect your energy and your time. I have my phone set up to where I don't receive notifications for my emails. I don't receive notifications from Pinterest or whatever. Like it's pre-programmed, and I will have a time in my day where I do the thing that I want to do. A time to look at emails, a time to reply to messages, a time to have team meetings. Because to me, focus isn't just paying attention to the one thing at the one time. It's removing distractions as much as possible to make sure that you give your energy to that one thing at that one time.
I have a Fix It Friday. Yeah.
Love it.
And well, that's the thing. I leave it. And if like, hey, if the week went smooth, it never does. But if the week went smooth and I don't have anything on there, it's like, hey man, like kick back, enjoy your Friday, dude. Like,
Yes.
what is there something on here that you've been wanting to get into, or is there something on the list of, hey, you know what, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna go watch Warfare or something this weekend. It's
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the Fix It Friday end of things, and man, what you're saying right there is huge with that distractions of your cell phone. Like, so my background's in marketing,
Okay.
and it's funny because they're starting to understand, oh, has anybody, I'm sure you have wondered, man, why are they all adding this text option on here now? Why is
Yeah.
it that they want my phone number? And it's because they no longer, like, they realize that people have these notification blocks either on their Instagram or their email. But somebody will always answer their phone,
Yeah.
whether it's a text
know.
message or a phone call. And they build that in on purpose. They are, I guess, they're vying for your time. They're stealing that time away from you. They're time bandits. And your phone is one of the biggest ones of that.
Yeah.
No, absolutely, man. That's and shifting too. I mean, there's just so much in what you said there with shifting from a creative mode into that analytical mode and stuff too. Uh, when I've got that focus to do the creative mode stuff, to either sit down and, do a day's worth of writing, uh, that's huge. But if I get distracted during that, or I get a phone call in, or it's like, hey, I need some help with this. Do you got some time? You know, uh, yeah, okay. And then you're out of that mode, but then what do you have to do to get back into that? So
Yeah.
it's figuring out how to do that shift, what's going to help you, or it's like learn how to say no as well. Like, no,
Yeah.
I don't have the time for that right now, but I can do it later.
Yeah.
Is this
Just
something that
because
can
you have
wait?
open slots doesn't mean that they're yours to give away. Like, you protect it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, like, I have that set up the same way. Like, most of the time when people call me, they don't, even if I'm available, and people know this, so this isn't new information. Even if I'm available in the moment, it doesn't mean I am going to answer the phone.
Yeah.
And sometimes I send a text message back. And most of the time it's not an emergency.
Is that something within your calendar and protecting your time and whatnot? Would you call it, like, I know a lot of people call it time blocking and stuff like that. Where exactly did you find that resource, or is there something that you could suggest people go to as far as that, as far as a resource and a checklist? Like, hey, you know what? How can I gain that focus time, or how can I set up a calendar to where, or my phone to be like, hey, where is these time slots? How do I create that focus time for myself?
So I think it starts first by identifying where the energy suck happens. So instead of you having your phone on vibrate all day because you get anxiety when you have it on alarms, take a day and turn your phone on and like listen to all the notifications. And the moment that you get a notification, look at it and ask yourself, do I need this notification? And if not, turn it off right there in the moment. It comes, I think, with being present with everything that you are doing initially, right? A book that I read by James Clear, Atomic Habits, is a wonderful book because you start to realize that it's not about trying to completely reprogram your life. It's about looking at the small moments that you can habit stack certain things that you want to do together. Right. So in the morning, I have my morning routine set up to where I wake up, I take my water with my lemon juice and my pinch of sea salt, and I either jump in my ice barrel or I do a cold shower first in the morning, because I know that if I do those two things, like, my morning will be amazing. And then I do my workout, or I have my kids, or whatever I'm doing. But I pay very close attention to like what doesn't go well in my day. And if one of those things is like, crap, I keep making it late to pick up my kids, it means you have to go into your calendar and you need to add another 15 minutes to that drive. If you keep missing the gym because your workout gets cut out short because your phone keeps going off and then you have to answer emails, that means freaking stop, turn off the email notifications, put your phone on the focus setting that doesn't bother you when you're at the gym.
Yeah.
And technology is a freaking tool. You can set up your phone to where when you enter your gym, it goes onto a certain focus setting, and then you don't have distractions. My phone goes on sleep mode at a certain time every night, and that's it. I don't take away from that. And my focus setting on my phone, when it's on sleep mode, the screen changes, right? I have a work phone and I have my personal phone, and on my personal phone I have the screensaver, it's background, and it's pictures of my children. And as I tap on it, it cycles through to keep me with my children being present. Nice. Right? And my work phone, it doesn't go with me everywhere. Right? There's no real emergencies. Things can get handled at a later time when you've had time to process stuff. Not everything requires your immediate response. Because I'll tell you this, it's also about training the people around you in your life. And training sounds weird because people think that you're training them, but it's about setting expectations. And boundaries, by the way, are not for you to put in place so that people respect them. Boundaries are for you to put in place for you to respect your own boundaries.
Yep.
So if you get into the habit of, when there is an emergency that people believe is an emergency, and they call you or they message you and you reply right away, that becomes the standard. Yeah. That becomes the baseline. They believe that if they have to do that again tomorrow, it'll be all right. And I've had people that call me and they call me 3 times in a row. And I'm like, what's going on? Like someone must have been in a bad accident. And if there is an emergency like that, I hope that they call 911 first, right? But I called that individual back and he's like, oh, I just wanted to see how you were doing. I wanted to see if you wanted to roll jujitsu with me this weekend. And I put a stop to it. And I very kindly, I'm like, dude, like I thought something happened. Like my reaction when I answered the phone and when I called him was like, I thought something happened.
Yeah.
And it's not me being a jerk. It's me showing that this behavior is not okay.
Yeah.
And it's not me telling him, like, don't call me 3 times in a row, but like, yeah, man, no problem. Like, do me a favor. Next time, just shoot me a message. I thought something happened. And I think it helps that person see like, okay, I can't just call this person 3 times in a row and he's an answer. And it's my fault because in the past, I always answer my phone.
Yeah.
Right? Because being a cop, you feel like you always have to be able to, answer. Being in the military, you feel like you always have to answer your platoon sergeant's phone call because there might be formation or something that you don't want to miss because you know what the repercussions are.
Yep.
So it's about unbecoming this idea of like, I always have to be available. I always have to be of use to people. I always have to go. Somebody told me this one day. You got to stop being the tugboat that goes into the storm, trying to bring in other boats in from the wreckage because you will end up in that wreckage as well. You gotta learn that you have to be that lighthouse.
Yeah. You
have to be the lighthouse that shows people the way in. Strong, steady, resilient. But like that is your role. So again, it's deprogramming all the stuff that you have in your mind of feeling like you always have to answer, like everything is an emergency. It's taking time, and then when you go through your list of all the things that are causing you anxiety or taking your attention, turning it off. Like, what is the point of listening to talk radio on your drive instead of listening to an audiobook that gets you in the right mindset instead of you hearing all the bad stuff that is happening in the world, right? And this is the realization I had recently because for 10 years, for a good amount of my day, I had a radio on me that I heard all the bad stuff that was happening around me. Person shot, person stabbed, this, that. So like I am working on unbecoming that. And I have predetermined things that are easy for me to do. When I get in the car, I'm already pre-programmed to like, I'm going to listen to an audiobook.
Yep.
Right? During my morning, I open my phone, I listen to a motivational video on YouTube as I'm taking my cold shower. I know that at nighttime, I like to listen to certain podcasts, right? And I've worked very hard to like make sure that my phone works for me. I have an Alexa in my house, and every night at 7 p.m., she tells me it's time to turn off the lights.
Yep.
It's wind down time. And it doesn't mean that I always do it perfectly, but it means I have a cue. That means the shades are getting shut down. The lights are being turned off. My kids know that means that it's bedtime soon.
Yep.
So it's not about we're all up late watching TV and now I just turn the lights off and now they're in this like crisis mode of like we just went from watching Bluey to like going to bed. No, there's a process and they understand it. It's just these cues for them as children that I am responsible for.
Yeah.
All right. So Atomic Habits by James Clear was a very useful book for me. 12 Rules for Life from Jordan Peterson, a very useful book for me. And when you read that book, read it chapter by chapter, apply the thing in the chapter, and then move on to the next chapter. It's not about just reading it to read it. You have to implement it because information without implementation is just noise. It's just that mental masturbation that makes you feel good. But if you don't apply it, So yeah. Hope that answers the question for the most part.
Man, are you kidding me? That's that went in depth on a lot of that, as well as offered that give back. Hey, this is some of the things you can do, and these are some of the resources to back that up. I mean, that is probably the most complete answer that anybody could have given. So, and that's where I have to say, man, I mean, honestly, that's what you're doing out there, and that's what you're offering to others, like through your podcast, through the work you're doing with your coaching. And that's why I had to have you on here. I love it. And I'm going to put that stuff in the description links and stuff, but where, from your mouth anyway, where can we find you?
Yeah, thank you. I am on all socials through JP, the Veteran Coach. If you want to listen to the podcast after you listen to this one for sure, and then listen to a bunch of Will's episodes, I am at the VetRise podcast on Spotify, Apple, YouTube. And yeah, I mean JP the Veteran Coach on all socials and the VetRise podcast.
Bam. And if you wanted to know what we were talking about earlier, be sure to check out 109, because that episode right there, man, I honestly, that one touched me. It was phenomenal to listen to, and I really enjoyed that episode. So, Juan, hey man, thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate you taking the time, man. Honestly, like, thanks for coming
My
on.
pleasure, man.
And for everyone else, I'm going to put that in the description links on where you can get to Juan's content and everything. And definitely check him out. And thank you so much for coming on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for joining me on another episode of Veteran Success Story. To find out more about Juan and the work that he's doing within the VetRise Academy, I'm going to put a link in the description to where you can get there pretty easily, but you can also just go look for the VetRise Academy and find it at vetrise.us. There you can also find the VetRise podcast, or again, just do a search for it wherever you listen to podcasts, and I'm sure that's going to show up, Juan Perez or JP the Veteran Coach. So like, follow, and subscribe wherever you're listening to this show, as well as his, because the content that's out there and that Juan is putting out is phenomenal. He's doing a great job out there. And again, he's in my list. He's in the content that I'm consuming, the stuff that I'm listening to. It's the whole reason why I contacted him, is just he has a way about describing things or talking about things to where it just resonates with me. So a lot of this stuff, we're in the same space. So I encourage you to go and check that out. And like, follow, and subscribe his end of efforts as well. So again, this has been a great episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm not going to take up any more of your time, but join us next week. I have another great guest coming on, and this has been yet another Veteran Success Story.